Good morning, everyone. Well, today in the Christian world, today is Palm Sunday. And I just wanted to remind us that this was the day, according to the Christian tradition, that Jesus rode into Jerusalem. And in metaphysics, we have a lot of interpretation of different terms and what this means spiritually in our lives today. So what difference does it make that Jesus rode a donkey into Jerusalem, right? A couple of things that I thought about that I wanted to remind us of. First of all, the term Jesus Christ is, in the mystical conception, means that each one of us has the same qualities of divinity within us. So, in our teaching, Jesus, the Christ, is not an exception. Meister Eckhart, one of the early mystics in what is now the Roman Catholic Church, said this: God never begot one son, but the eternal is forever begetting the only begotten. We are all expressions of the divine. So, in our teaching, there is not just one. So we think of Jesus, the Christ, and I say the Christ because we want to emphasize that Christ is not just his last name. Christhood means a mystical experience, a connection with the divine that is within each one of us. And as we explore it and move toward it, then we become more like the Christ. We become more moving into our Christhood. It's sort of like ceiling of the Sistine Chapel. I've actually been there to see it. It's fabulous, but I'm sure you've seen photographs of it if you haven't, with the arm of God pointing and then the figure representing humankind is reaching up to the finger that is pointing, but there's a gap there. And so it's like we need to close the gap. And I was thinking about this earlier. I grew up in a traditional Christian teaching which taught that God, or the Christ, is far removed from me. Who am I to even think of that? And so, in order to have a relationship with God, I must somehow lower myself so that God will like me, so that I will be good enough for my requests to be answered. And that's sort of the traditional thing. So, moving beyond that, what we teach is that we are enough right now. See, we are enough. If God is enough, then we're enough because we are individualized expressions of what is called God, or spirit, divine mind, universal intelligence. There are many, many names for this. Some other things that I want to just bring out is that the word Jerusalem which was the destination, as the story goes. Jesus the Christ rode the donkey into Jerusalem. Well, why Jerusalem? Why not Bethlehem or what other cities were around at that time? The word Jerusalem, Jeru, Jeru, means founding, and Salam, Salem, which is used a lot today too, means peace, quiet, safety, harmony, prosperity, all of that. So, metaphysically, Jesus was moving into the place of peace. So this is symbolic of our lives in moving into our peace. So, how do we take our journey into the city of peace? How do we go from where we are to where we possibly want to be? I have something I want to share. Some of you may remember who Alfred E. Newman is. Anybody remember Alfred? Okay. He was the mascot for Mad Magazine. I don't know. Is that magazine still around now? It is. Okay. Well, anyway, here's what Alfred said. I always get the important people to have quotes from them. Most people, he says, don't know what they really want. But they're sure they haven't got it. Think about that. Most people don't know what they really want, but they're sure that they don't have it. Do you go through life like that? I'm not sure what I want. There must be something there. What is it? I don't have it. Okay. So, this was written by Steve Goodyear and came to my attention. He says, I have a friend who likes to say, enough is a moving target. When do we have enough? Enough money? Enough love? Enough time? That's a big one these days, it seems like. Enough of whatever we think we need to be happier. Yeah, I'm so glad that song Happy came out, because I think it's having a great influence upon the universe. And another thing I found out this week is that there is a organized effort to turn video games into a blessing for the planet. Do you know about that? I saw somebody shaking their head back there. So this is an example of, you see, I think the evolution of the world is moving into being more spiritual. Being more spiritual. And I thought, well, this is a wonderful example of taking the technology and the interest in video games. I mean, they're just all around. Yet their messages at the present time aren't that great. They're usually against something. Many of them are shooting and so forth. And gosh, I remember when several years ago my kids got this one game. It wasn't a video game, but it was similar. And the point was to harm the girl who was in the middle of it. And my two grandsons were playing it. And I said, what are you doing? And they said, oh, it's just a game. It's not anyone we know. But see, that gets into the consciousness and I really believe that the violence that we see in the world is because we have violent language, we have violent sports, we have violence showing up in many, many ways, in competitive kinds of things. In the Science of Iron, Ernest Holmes says there is no competition because each person will attract to him or herself according to their own consciousness. So you don't have to worry about the person sitting next to you in the office getting ahead of you. All you have to do is keep your consciousness evolving, do more than what's expected of you, put the universe in debt to you, show up early, do some kindness for everyone. You'll get it back. You'll get it back, and in the meantime, you'll distribute all of this wonderful, wonderful love and caring and so forth. So here's a thought. Our age, what is our age characterized by? Is it the ability to get what we want and the inability to want what we get? Is it the ability to get what we want and the inability to want what we get? Think about that one. In 1988, there was a woman who won $20 million in the lottery. 5 years, and it showed, lots of films and interviews, and her family, of course, showed up. All the family shows up when you win $20 million. Whether you've seen them or not before. But 5 years later, it also showed her destitute on the steps of a dilapidated apartment building. So, did the $20 million make her happy? Obviously not. So happiness doesn't really come from what we have or from our possessions. It's an inside job. It's an inside job. And I think we can, in order to be completely satisfied, grow into the ability first to want what we've got. Now, the first step to any kind of change is awareness. So if you're becoming aware of how negative you are, that's a good thing. That's a good thing. Because when you become aware of it, then the thought just may occur that you need to change it. And all of us have experienced that. But having a negative thought occasionally and now and then is not the big thing. The big thing is your constant trend of what you're going toward. Your constant trend of what it is that you're going for. I have a section of a book I'd like to just allude to. It's You Are Enough, Always Have Been, Always Will Be. And that's the message I'd like to impart to you today. You are enough. And see, so many times as we were growing up, especially, we were, I know I was, who do you think you are? Who do you think you are to want this or to think you can achieve this or that or the other? And I didn't know enough to stop myself and say, I am enough. I'm an individualization of the one power and presence. Of course, I didn't even know what that meant at the time. But we know now, we can know now, that no matter what we've done, we're still enough. No matter what decisions we've made that turned out to be, we are enough because we can move forward with new thoughts. This is written by David Walker, who founded the Los Angeles Church of Religious Science, as it was called in that day. Today it's the Los Angeles Center for Spiritual Living. This section is called I Require. The person who realizes the power of words will want to use words that reflect the highest truth. The truth is that God doesn't want or need or yearn for anything. Great. This means in my enoughness, I don't want, need, or yearn for anything either, for I individualize God. How can I make my life better then if I don't want to be better? That's sort of the dilemma. The key is to stop wanting and start requiring. Stop wanting and start requiring. If money is an issue, I might say, I require prosperity because God is prosperous and I am one with God. Now, who are we talking to? We're not talking to the man up in the sky. We're talking to ourselves. See, there's only one of us, and we're really talking to ourselves. All of our thoughts that run through our head all the time, we're talking to ourselves. It's ourself talking to ourself is what it is. Now, we give up telling ourselves what we want and need and even deserve and start telling ourselves what we require. Now that we know that our enoughness has within it every good thing. Now, what's the difference between wanting and requiring? Requiring is the act of calling on the inner qualities of a perfect self to become visible in the outer world. Calling on the inner qualities of a perfect self to become visible in the outer world of form. Because, see, everything starts within us, whether we like it or not, or whether we know it or not. Always starts within us. And here's a wonderful story that David Walker tells. I discovered the word requirement as a replacement for words like need and want when I was a singer. I was playing the Vapors Club in Hot Springs, Arkansas, and was invited to the home of a lovely lady in her 80s for dinner. I accepted and was overwhelmed by the grand style in which the evening unfolded. She was obviously from the old school of gracious living. The dinnerware rivaled Bucket's Royal Dalton, and the table was set with more silverware than I had ever seen. At the end of the meal, the lady served coffee and asked, David, do you require cream? I thought to myself, well, I like cream. I always have cream, but I'm not sure I require cream. Then I thought again and realized that if there's no cream available, I don't drink coffee. So yes, I answered, I require cream. This is the day when I replace the words need, want, and yearn with require. And because I am conscious that I am complete, I require everything that goes with completeness. I don't need money, I require it. I don't need to be successful, I require it. I don't need love in my life, I require it. Not because I am incomplete, but because I know who I am. So I don't think we can make ourselves feel like we're complete or enough. We have to let ourselves feel enough. And this is because spiritual awareness cannot be forced. It has to evolve in its own way, in its own pace. Sometimes divine revelation simply means adjusting your brain to hear what your heart already knows. Adjusting your brain to hear what your heart already knows. So he suggests we get out of the habit of saying, I want, or I need, and replace it with requirement. And it's okay to require it because you're enough. You're enough already. So it's not that you need or want in order to make yourself whole or perfect or complete. You already are that. But you can set your tone. You can set your mind and heart to know that it's okay to require the best of life. And so it is.